365 Days of Horsemanship, day 254. So day 254 was pretty exciting. I was able to bring Mia up again. Played with the same sort of technique with the haltering, except this time she was grazing, so I used like steadily increasing and then decreasing pressure on the halter to get that haltering. It's a pretty direct way of getting around the haltering, really. But I think I just don't want to get too bogged down in that whole process, because I feel like that once I get to a place where there's a little bit more motivation, the pattern is a little bit more well set, the routine is more well set, she's more interested about what we're doing, I just don't think it's going to be necessary for me to really need to catch her that much at all. I'm sure that she'll be much more motivated to be caught. So yeah, so for now I'm just sticking with that. Regardless, reasonably, she should be able to manage that anyway. And yeah, so haltered, brought her up. There was a lot less challenges with bringing her up this time, which was super. And I was able to work again a little bit bareback. And then after about 10 or 15 minutes, I could feel she was getting a little sore. So I was able to start looking at saddle fitting, which is really exciting. Definitely gonna see how that kind of pans out over this next week or so, and then talk with you guys a little about that, which would be nice. And yeah, and that went really well, actually. I felt good about it. I definitely rushed the girthing, which was not ideal, but I definitely know where I'm going with how to manage that, so that's fine too. And that's also something that I'll look to share with you guys in due course. Yeah, I think my main focus with Mia, with the riding, was I'm still working on this pattern where I'm using sideways to push into relaxation in the walk and in the halt. So it's kind of like a million transitions, but using sideways. And so that's been really super. And what I was really working on was actually something that I remember first hearing about from Magali, and is something that kind of also sits really nicely with where Elsa's work is at, which is about applying a level of pressure and waiting until the horse is ready to find the answer. Essentially set it up and wait. Don't increase the pressure, don't change anything, just set it up and wait. And so that's what I was really working on, is instead of trying to fix things when they were going wrong, instead of trying to change anything or make anything different, just putting myself in the spot that I wanted to be in for the cue for that movement and waiting for Mia to find the answer. And that definitely takes some like mental, not stamina, but like mental discipline for me, because my reflexive action is to fix and to change and to try and to manage and to micromanage and to try to explain, because I just can't like wait for the time I need to wait for her to work it out and be wrong about stuff. And it's an interesting pattern for me, actually. It's probably something that has existed in my life, is just like perhaps not waiting for people to get things wrong, like wanting to correct people as soon as possible for their own comfort. And I think that's, you know, to do with that being, I guess, what I want. I don't like being wrong. I want to know the right answer as soon as possible. I don't want to have to waste any time on remembering or practicing or thinking something that's wrong. I want to know what the right answer is, and I want to know it now. And not everybody feels that way. And actually, it's not also an especially practical or realistic way to train yourself or others. And so that is a real challenge for me, and I'm really happy and excited to be working on it, definitely. And I think Mia is the ideal teacher for that with me, because I think that level of patience and confidence and calm leadership with her is going to be really powerful, because I think she's also the kind of horse who will like try a million things to get out of a situation, or try a million things to make something better, and the more things she tries and the more difficult it becomes, the more stressed she gets. So me adding a bunch of different things in there is just going to be really overwhelming. And so I think it's going to be a really good lesson for me that actually success comes faster if I just set something up and wait and just try to sort of, you know, breathe through it. I would say mentally hold my breath, but that's exactly the last thing I want to do. Just really breathe through the discomfort of waiting for her to work out the answer to this pressure. And yeah, and actually I think it's a really interesting, now I'm talking about it, I'm kind of like wondering how far I can take that. I might maybe video that today if I get time. I'm a couple days late filming this video, and I am hoping to ride again today, so that'll be kind of interesting, because maybe I will try to video that session, and maybe just play around a little bit with how long I can be patient for, and actually just wait and let her realize that association for herself would be really an interesting game to play, something to experiment with. So that's kind of fun. That makes me feel really motivated to stop filming and go and see the horses. But I really need to catch up on these, because otherwise I'll forget what on earth I did. Day 254 with Lawrence. Yeah. He is, I feel like we're getting into a rhythm now. Definitely. I think he, that was the first day that I worked with the scratching and the itching and realized how, firstly, how many missed opportunities there had been for training within that. And secondly, how much concern there is around it still. And started sort of setting some boundaries with how we play that game. And I think that, like, I think people can have some really negative, I have certainly had some really negative associations with the word boundary and the idea of boundaries. I think I personally have had a negative idea of like boundaries from when I was perhaps a child, and I felt like boundaries were a thing that happened to you that might stop you from doing something that you wanted to do. And then I think growing up, boundaries became something that blocked me from other people, and something that blocked other people from me, and something that made it difficult to connect with people. And I think there's a million different associations with boundaries in my head. And I was actually listening to a really interesting class online with a lady whose full name I've forgotten, Esther Perelson, something like that. Some of you might know her. I think she's a psychotherapist, and she is teaching an online class on emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, sorry. And she was talking about boundaries in this session, around how boundaries are like skin, and skin is like sort of semi-permeable. And so you can have areas that are very porous and areas that are very not. I thought that was a really nice, like, natural, beautiful metaphor for boundaries. And I think I sort of really need to, or really want to, change my opinion about it. And so that's where I'm really at with Lawrence in this scratching, because I think he is very boundary-less in some ways, and I think he also has some quite negative associations in those senses. So basically what I was looking at with him was around how and in what situations scratching is going to be associated with a good feeling. So if he's moving, I need to be moving. There's no, like, scratching is not a type of supportive leadership that we can do together in that moment, because he's become concerned about it. And so starting to be really consistent about not scratching him while he's moving, and just walking that circle and coming back around and trying to find the place that he wanted me to move to, that I was late to. And I also have set the boundary that if he wants scratches anywhere other than his head, then we need to take the rug off, because otherwise it just never works out for us, because I can't scratch him over his rug, and I can only scratch him under his rug to a certain place, and then that's always not enough. And so that's been really interesting too, because that's sort of like that compromise, which has been a really nice way to get him feeling better about having the rug taken off, which also means that he gets some air, and he gets, you know, some time while we're together where the rug isn't on, which I've always wanted, and he's always found that really difficult. But if that's coming with scratches, that's not so bad. And so just little things like that. It's still a really challenging pattern for me. I still feel kind of frustrated because I know that I'm still being late quite often. And actually, maybe it's something that I should film and put in the study group. The course with Elsa Sinclair, the foundation course that I was on in November, some of us from that course have a study group on Facebook where we post videos of ourselves playing with our horses, and kind of like give some mutual feedback, things like that. And so I think I will probably post that on there, because that's definitely something that I feel like my timing and my feel with that is just not there. Like I should be leaving before he starts moving, whereas what's happening is I'm still leaving like as he's moving, and that's late. So yeah, so I think that's what I'll do for that. Go seek out some help. So yeah, it was a really good day, all things considered. I came home on a real high from that day. I'll actually put a link in the description below to the post I did of my horse face, because I was so happy about the ride that I'd had with Mia, and being able to fit the saddle and that going pretty well, and just feeling really excited about the consistency that we'd had together. And so I posted that picture, and I would love it if you guys could join in that challenge with me, and post below a picture of you after a really amazing ride with your horse, and just document those good feelings, because that's what we do this for after all.